All right, everybody, welcome back to the Business Roundtable Podcast. I have another new guest this week. I'm super excited to introduce to you, Sarah Powell. We're going to be talking a whole lot of different things. We're both local here in Southern California and have a lot of shared interests, before we started recording, and we've met before, but talking about balancing leadership, marketing, business growth. Sarah's got just a wealth of experience, particularly in the marketing side, but growing a business. And I'm excited to have you here, Sarah. Thanks for joining us on the Business Roundtable.
Thank you, David, for having me. I'm excited to be here and share my story.
Yeah, you've got a lot of great stories, and that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast here, because you're the founder of Curb and Sign. We're going to talk about Curb and Sign here, and not only that, but Esri marketing. I was sharing. We were just talking before we started recording my GAS background in my environmental consulting world, and how you marry all these things and different experiences. And so I'm really excited to have you share your journey and some lessons learned along the way in both your professional career and in being a business owner. So super excited to have
I'm
you here.
excited to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, absolutely. So let's maybe start with your entrepreneurial leadership at Curb and Sign and talk a little bit about you know you know the company. Like, how long has it been around? Like, when you kind of started from just a side hustle, if you will. A lot of people just start a side hustle of like getting this thing going, but now this is a full scale business operation that you guys are running.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, it started in 2011. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah.
My husband and I started the business April 1, and we thought, I hope that's not a bad sign, but
No
knock on
joke.
wood, so far, so good.
Yes.
And it started out of necessity. The economy was still not great.
Mm-hmm.
And we had two little kids. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my master's in business because of the sluggish economy, and
Yep.
because I prioritized staying home with my children at the time. We needed to earn extra income, and so my husband started curb painting on the side.
Uh-huh.
He was a sales manager, did very well there. We lived in Orange County. It was nice, but he's also an artist. And there was this like phenomenon, if you will, in Huntington Beach where everyone painted their curb addresses with beautiful beach scenes.
Yeah.
And he was kind of known to some people that he could paint, and so he did that for extra money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it became such it just kind of became a thing with him. He grew like in popularity, and I I started helping him with getting
Mm-hmm.
sales crew and getting our business licenses in Orange County, so he can start collecting that business.
Yep.
And from there, we thought, gosh, if only we had a product that we could ship.
Uh-huh.
And then that turned into us developing the curb wrap, which is our signature product, our invention,
Mm-hmm.
um, with a peel and stick address that replaces paint. Fast forward almost 14 years later, we have a full scale business selling all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
The curb wraps we sell, for holidays, flags, state and country flags. We sell personalized, like custom logos, and that's just one product. From there, we developed many more products, and we have a line of home address plaques that are great, like in the country, and you really need to see far away. And it's like the top like material for
Yep.
it's reflective material.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just a whole host, boat signs, address signs, fire lane stencils, business signs. And it just grew from there. And
Yeah.
then now it's in like the memorial space and fundraising space. And it just literally just
Just
kept
keeps
growing.
going.
Yeah. So that's in a longer nutshell than I
Yeah.
intended. That's how it started.
Well, I mean, so what we're going to dive a little bit, we'll dive more into this because you brought up, your husband being a creative, and then what I found is, creatives oftentimes they need people to help them in the marketing and some systems and putting some things together. And so I know, you know um obviously you've got 14 years to look back on now. You didn't do it all at once, and I honestly felt your stories of some of the challenges in that process, but seeing the need, you saw the need, and how you guys came together, which, to support this growth and building a team, and like I said, having the systems in place. I think, I'm very, it's really awesome to see. But I think, you leverage this, and even and you're also work for Esri, Esri here, even locally in Redlands, you
Hmm.
using your marketing skills there too. Like, of all these, you
Yes.
were just talking to about recording, like, hey, I've got a landing page here and the messaging we got to get out there. So I mean, to me, this is really important in being in marketing and getting customer engagement. It sounds like you've really been able to amp that up, reaching a lot of different, types of customers and clients.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm,
I've been at Esri for 7 years. It is
mm,
a great company,
mhm,
and it has been a really great partnership there.
mhm,
I think I think what makes that so successful is that um, it is like a people and process kind of, uh, like people first,
mhm,
people and process first. So
mhm,
I think working at Esri has taught me that it's the magic of a team. I know
mhm.
that sounds so
Yes.
cliche, but so
Yeah.
many process. I would say my skill is being able to look at something from like a bird's eye view, like,
Mhm,
and then also letting um, other experts do their role. And I know enough about their role to be dangerous and and to further that along the end goal. So my priority is getting it out there, getting it
mhm.
done, getting it completed,
Right?
knowing that you have to build agility into the process, knowing that you have to trust people to do their job, knowing that you have to trust yourself to question the experts sometimes
Yep.
along the way because they might have their own being, their own blinders being too
Mhm,
integrated in their own process. So it's about trust. It's about trusting yourself, trusting them. And it's a strategic bird's eye view with that goal of it's got to get it done and it's got to get done well. So I always
mhm,
have that kind of strategic mind. And I do that with my own business. I think I'm very focused um, and strategic. And
mhm,
I trust people to like I trust my vendors, but I
mhm.
always verify that they're staying on top of things,
Sure.
and that keeps us all honest. And
Right.
so it's some of those like little like those things you might take it like for granted. The
Mhm.
importance of holding regular meetings,
Mm,
checking in,
mm.
keeping us on cadence, keeping
Yep.
us on task. So it's just those project management also, I would say those project
Mhm.
management skills
Yeah.
that and with that strategic goal in mind, you always keep that goal in mind.
Yeah. What would you
It's got to
say?
get done.
'Cause so, Sarah, you brought up a lot of good things. So I know you have your master's. I know, you've done so much in marketing, but, like, I'm sure you've learned some of these things along the way, as you're going, right? It's not like you figured
Yeah,
it all this stuff all at once, you figured it out, right? It's like this is an
right.
ongoing thing. So what would you I mean, so I think people sometimes think, well, I'll just take a project management class or a marketing class and I've got figured out, like, it just doesn't. I always tell clients too when I'm coming in organizational health and I'm trying to help their people, I'm like, it's not going to be like boom, like, well, I can just give you a one workshop thing and you're going to figure it out and know how to do all this stuff. Right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. My you can't be afraid of always having to learn something new.
Mhm.
So everything that is new
Right.
keeps your brain just kind of more elastic for
Mhm.
one, but also you got to get comfortable in that learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get comfortable just being a little confused sometimes. And you
Yeah.
can't be afraid of being confused. And you can't look at being confused as a sign of your weakness. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
sign that you're growing and you're
Yeah.
learning something new. And you can't be afraid to ask other people for their assistance along the way. Like
Right.
even at my job, I was stuck on this spreadsheet, okay, and it was getting really complex, and it was trying to fulfill too many things.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this other lady was really great at data, and I would say I'm pretty good at data, but I just knew I'm going to go to her because I know that she's just great at it. So I hailed her down. I was like, "Hey, can you help me with my project?" And she said, "Let me take a look." And I think I was so heartened to learn that I was so close. The things that the little tips that she taught me,
Mm-hmm.
uh, first of all, I was impressed with her level of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also surprised that I wasn't that far off. So
Mm-hmm.
you might be surprised that you're actually probably better than you think, closer than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And once you are a little bit more humble and ask for help, then guess what? Now you are no longer at this level. You're at this level now. May not be
Right.
here, but you're still
Yep.
here. So you're just a little bit farther, and your only like goal is to be better for your project,
Mm-hmm. Well,
for the
I
end
would say
goal.
I mean, you hit a lot of great top points there, Sarah. One of the words I would use is, are you coachable? Are you a person that can be coached, humble enough for sure? And I can only surmise in your 14 years, the marketing that you were doing, even a few years ago, or like you said, there was COVID and other things. You have to adapt. You don't just set it and forget it, right? I mean, I'm pretty
Never.
sure you're learning, right? It's like there's certain things you understand fundamentally, right? But things change in the market, people's tastes change, like, right? What
Yeah.
drives them?
Yeah. So that's something I kind of like struggle with sometimes is
Mhm,
when I start something and I let it kind of go.
mhm,
It really keeps me up at night, and I think, oh my God, I'm letting it go. That's a sign that I'm not on top of my stuff.
mhm.
Right. So I've always
Yeah.
had that like, oh gosh, I'm letting this project go.
Mhm,
And one, that helps me achieve my goals because of
mhm.
my inner motivation to get things done. So
Yep.
I'm very focused on completing a task because I just have
Mhm,
my own internal standards.
mhm,
But I've also learned, actually through my husband's example, is you have to be willing to test and then fail fast and move
mm,
on.
mm,
And
mhm.
so I've learned like, okay, that didn't work. And
Yep.
being able to just push it aside, like, okay, that didn't work, next. Or
Yeah.
just tweak, like little tweaks.
Yeah. That's I
Um,
Sarah, I wanna pause you because I think that's so important because sometimes people I've noticed this is they try an initiative in only a portion of it is bad or it needs to be tweaked, but they throw the whole thing out and then they start brand new all over, like brand new. So, I mean, when you every time you start brand new again, that's a whole lot of energy and effort. So I think what you just said was like tweaking and I found from marketing, you tell me because I've learned, but some people think it's just kind of changing a word or moving things around just ever so slightly could be the thing that
yeah,
unlocks people.
yeah, that's so true.
You
That's
know?
so true, especially with like your brand and your AdWords. I mean,
Mhm.
I've spent, gosh, hours, and I don't even want to give a monetary value of tweaking our ad spend and our um, just our AdWords on
Mhm,
Amazon
mhm,
and all of the sites that we sell on, in addition to our website. Uh, it's those tweaks of the words that make a massive difference,
mhm,
and even time of day,
mm,
and when you're exposing to your audience
yeah,
a certain keyword or
mhm,
uh, I mean, yes, the tweaks matter. So
Yeah.
you have to have someone there counting the beans, like you have to have a bean counter in
Yes.
addition to someone looking at the bigger picture. So if you can assemble a team of
Mm-hmm.
people that are expert, that are better at you in certain areas of the business, I mean, that's where the sweet spot is, right there. People have to be willing to tweak all the time.
Yep.
And you have to come in and make sure that everyone's on course. That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
No, I mean, another key point, in leading, being a leader and team building and, organizational growth, which, my passion is people and developing teams. But
Yeah.
like you said, it's finding the right players, get on the team, right? And nurturing that. And I love when we were talking before about warts and all, or figuring out the challenges with different
Yeah.
folks, right? But where are they best suited? Where are they fit within the organization, whether they're an employee, whether they're a contractor, even a supplier or somebody else, right? How do they fit within the team? I think sometimes business owners, particularly when you're talking about maybe not so much vendors, but some employees or independent contractors, is they wait too long. They're trying to do too much themselves or trying to figure it out. And like, look, if you just get this other person in, they could help you go faster, right?
Yeah. I definitely do not want to waste time trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out when
Mm-hmm.
I could spend the money, the investment,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and work with someone else who can get me there faster. Because for me, time is like, if you're spending that, there's that opportunity cost, they
Yes.
teach you about
Mm-hmm.
in business school, right? That
Right.
you're losing out on
Mm-hmm.
um, by not solving the next issue when you're stuck on this one.
Right.
And then
Mm-hmm.
learning, if like it's a discovery, like, am I
Mm-hmm.
even on the right path? Like, if you spend too much time on one path, you could be like getting stuck, and you don't
Yeah.
want to get stuck. You've got to keep moving forward.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it again, finding everybody's strength. So, your husband was the creative one. He started to come up with all these, and I appreciate those creative voices. But then you're here like, how do we market this? How do we, and of course systematize this a little bit more, and then find
Yeah.
out other people that we can bring in, right, to do that. And so I just thought, especially in your early part of your journey that you were talking to me, Sarah, about,
Yeah.
like, oh man, this was hard at first, but you realize,
Yeah.
I think very early on, even you said like, hey, we've got to get some people that believe in us and that know that, get them on our side, on our team. I find I want to encourage other business owners, if you're trying to do this by yourself or alone and just trying to grit through, I mean, maybe you can do it, but I think you're going to be much in a healthier place and happier with your life, even that you've got,
Right.
another team, right? You
That's
know?
true. And then, so a lot of it is people skills, right? You have
Mhm.
to have people skills. You have to be very
Mhm.
patient sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to overlook like personality, quirks. We were talking
Mhm.
earlier, not on this call, but about how sometimes you just gotta like embrace
Yeah.
people for all
Mhm.
of their well-roundedness, warts and
Mhm.
all,
Yeah.
because we all have them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but they all have that gem that you need to
Mhm.
just. They all need to work together to just help you accomplish your goals. And when you can be patient and kind of just sidestep certain things,
Mhm.
that that maybe culturally there's a difference. Oh, you're
Yep.
from this state, I'm from this state, we don't look at this things the same way. Or
Mhm.
you're a different political persuasion, whatever it is. Or we
Right.
have different opinions here or there. Or you're slower paced than me, I'm fast paced, and I'm end goal paced, but you're just focusing on all these little details that don't matter to me. So you got to kind of like sift through that a little bit, and
Mhm.
it, and then it can work together. Like, it's like the sausage always gets made, but it is messy in the process sometimes. And but that's where like like the fun happens, like
Yeah.
in that test kitchen. And
Mhm.
I think all of my metaphors end up being about food, so excuse me there.
All good. All good.
So yeah,
Oh.
you have to trust other people, and and even with people, like, you have to be patient. So I've been working on this one project, this one website that I'm getting built,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been taking some delays, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay because we're figuring things out. And I just know, having worked with this person before, that we've got to keep a steady interaction, steady communication. And I know that's what works with this person.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
person I work with for advertising, for example, I helped equip him with the right technology, and he learned that technology, and
Mm-hmm.
I learned it along with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would come in, on occasion, review the work, see where there were misses, help guide and direct. But now that he's got it, if I overstep, then that might pose a little bit of a, I don't know, I don't want to say insulting, that's too
Mm-hmm.
strong of a word, but it might appear that I'm not trusting his work. So
Yep.
it's like, I know that works with him. I know just gentle prodding works. This person might need consistent communication and work, so like, you learn along the way what works. But if you
Yeah.
just keep that end goal in mind, then then it'll be fine.
What I hear what I hear you've married, uh, I'll use the term kind of emotional intelligence or emotional IQ. I was just listening to another presentation recently about, does is IQ trump, is that more important in today's world, like you being super smart? And I think it once was. I don't know that it's as critical because we've got other tools. We've got AI, we've got other tools that you
Right.
can information,
Yeah.
but but becoming what you just explained, Sarah, becoming self-aware of yourself, number one. And I have a whole nother podcast called the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast, Know Yourself to Lead Yourself. But of discovery of, like, you've learned this is where my sweet spot is and what I do
Yeah.
best, right? And vice versa. This you just explained. This other person does this really well, which I don't. I learn it, but they are actually better, or maybe they've become the expert at it. They're really thriving at it. I think, I'm like you. I like to learn a lot of things, but I realize what's my strength. I need to stay at, what work, stay there the majority of the time. And so sometimes I feel like, again, if you're a business owner and you're being really rigid, like they have to do it my way. I'm the expert and I understand it all. If sometimes I think business owners might, if everything comes to them, there's a limit to where you can grow and scale the company because you're the answer man. You're the person that knows everything and how everything should be done right. Um, and
Yeah.
I think I
That's
might even mention the book E Myth by Michael Gerber, but like this idea of right. There's the this manager there, and you're not being the entrepreneur, and so basically, if you don't understand this about yourself, and this doesn't mean you have a business owner, right? This could be anybody in your team too. If they're just feeling like they've got end all be all know everything, you're going to be real limited in how you can interact with folks. So I wanted people to just realize, Sarah, what you're sharing is super valuable because it's made you successful both at Esri and Curb and Sign. It sounds like to me.
I hope so. And
Yeah.
by the way, I met Michael Gerber.
Oh, you did?
He gave us some advice. Yeah, he spoke at my church,
Oh, that's awesome.
and he taught, and it was like this business summit, and he gave us some good advice.
Yeah,
He
I think
told
I've got
us,
more over
you
here.
don't have to go around business to get business,
Yes.
because we were thinking, oh, we're going to go into this other. That's before we were on when we were before we were online.
Yeah.
Now we're everywhere. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, he was very, very kind, and I did take his expertise to heart, and
Mm.
we listened to him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I would definitely say EQ is probably more important, especially for
Mhm.
me. And you have to know yourself, and you also have to know how you're perceived sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, because I think, you know, like, I don't know. I think if I were to act like my husband, who's a little more
Mhm.
authoritative, right? He's
Yep.
very entrepreneurial. Like,
Mhm.
he's not just a creative, he's very entrepreneurial.
Mhm.
Uh, excellent sales person, and
Mhm.
also helps teach people how to sell and
Mhm.
grow that business. And I'm also entrepreneurial, but I'm systems focused, I'm project focused. And
Mhm.
I would say like that works together.
Yeah.
Um, the but for me, I know if I were to act like him, like coming from
Mm.
me, if I were to be a little bit more authoritative like him,
Yeah.
I don't know if people would perceive it as well or take it as well. And I don't
Mhm.
know if that's probably a broader conversation about
Yeah.
being a woman or what people
Yeah.
expected me. And
Yep.
also, I'm naturally not like that. Like I'm more consensus building. I'm more democratic. I like to inspire. I'm a little bit softer,
Mhm.
uh, and I do little gentle coaxing in
Mhm.
line,
Mhm.
as opposed to being like my way or the highway. Um, so I think if I were to do something a little bit differently, it would first of all come across disingenuous. And I don't know if that's just because that's not my natural style
Uh-huh.
or if it's because, you know, I've developed that style because I'm like a woman business owner and people want to see me in a certain way. I don't know. I
Yeah.
really
Well,
don't
I
know.
think you're gonna have to take my 5 voices assessment, Sarah. I'll have you,
Okay.
I'll send that to you because but what I think you're getting at here, though, for everybody that's listening, as a business owner, it is finding your sweet spot of what is and in the 5 voices framework, that's something that I use through my company is how we understand ourselves, and it's just a way of it's an inclusive way. We can have all of the leadership voices, if you will, like you said, Sarah. I think we have all of them. It's just a matter of where's our natural, what are we naturally stronger at than
Hmm.
others. And so, for example, what I hear you saying is what works really well with you and your husband that he's kind of this visionary. He's got a mission. He sees this big picture. He's driving it, and oftentimes, my experience, those I call pioneers are a little bit more upfront, and because they're on a mission,
Yeah.
and they're like kind of. If you think
Yep.
about going through the jungle, they're the bushwhackers. They're making the way, so they're not really worried
Exactly.
about. Yeah, I cut my finger. Like, no, well, we're gonna go. Let's keep going. You're like,
Yeah.
right? Where I hear
Yep.
you. Go ahead.
Well, he was a Marine too,
Oh, there you
so
go.
maybe that clears it
Yeah,
up
yeah.
a little bit more. And I'm kind of like that. I would say I'm more of like that power, like that energy. Like I
Mhm.
fuel that.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I think it could be any business. I just like to get it going. Like I'll help fuel it. I'll help make your dreams happen. I'm
Yeah.
having fun behind the scenes making it happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about your attitude as well. Like if you're having fun, if you remind yourself,
Hmm.
this is fun, problem solving
Yes.
is fun,
Yes.
working with people is fun, having challenges are fun. You keep maybe, I don't know, like sometimes I have to remind myself that when it gets very
Hmm.
stressful or when we can't
Hmm.
see the end goal, I have to remind myself it's the journey, have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Then it can be accomplished so much easier and better than
Yeah.
ever you imagined.
Mhm.
And that was always my secret, even in going through academia, like
Mhm.
going through school. When I was in high school, I was a valedictorian. I know that's a long time ago. I was probably, if they had a valedictorian for college, I probably would have been that. And so going through school and all subjects, whether it was master's or undergrad or high
Mhm.
school, what I told myself all the time was, this is fun.
Mm.
I love
Mm.
math. I love science. I
Mm,
love
mhm.
this. I love that. Find the synergies between these topics. Like if I changed my perspective
Mm.
and made my attitude positive,
Yes.
then the outcome was better than I imagined.
Wow. Yeah.
That was my secret.
That's no, I mean, that's huge. Because think about people that are stuck, and I think this goes into kind of leadership too, Sarah, as if you're leading this and then they're experiencing that, uh, just the positiveness, you're like, "Hey, look, we're gonna win together." I think people know naturally are drawn to energy and like, "Hey, um, this is an opportunity, a problem, but an opportunity here for us,
Hmm.
or a puzzle, if you will.
Ooh,
And
I
how
love
are we
puzzles.
gonna how are we gonna figure this out?" but not unfortunately, in creating a culture like I said, and in developing your teams that way versus the opposite way of people are trying to be manipulated, their fear, they're like trying to control, be a micromanager, if you will, and they're frustrated and they're angry and they're irritated because you don't do it the right way and understand this. And so it I've seen that in folks, and what's once that was something that actually hopefully brought them joy, or that is no longer something that brings them life, gets them excited. And there's nothing more miserable when you work with somebody that's just like that's their like life. You can feel the energy, right? And it's like, man, this is
Yeah.
not uh, enjoyable to be around, you know?
Yeah. And then you really have to try to like shift that visual in your mind. Because, we're all going to come across like some negative energies,
Mhm.
and you have to, I think it was my dad, he would always say, oh, you got to look at it like it's, oh, I shouldn't repeat this, but it's like fly poop, but he didn't use the word poop. Right? So if
Yep,
you like minimize that issue to just being so meaningless,
yep,
then it just
yep.
go about my business,
Mhm,
and just continue and try to work with what you're given,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
it doesn't always, sometimes those energies can be burdensome, I
yep.
will admit. And
Mhm,
it does delay projects. It does, have, a cost to your business outcome sometimes.
yep.
And that's the reality of it.
Mhm,
But, y- you know, I mean, the best like historical wonders of the world, I would say pyramids, were built in a desert.
yeah.
So sometimes you can have the best, most lasting uh, assets, products or whatever you're building, um,
Mhm,
in an environment that is not always going to be comfortable.
mhm.
And if you
Right.
just tell yourself that, just go through it anyway,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it'll be fine despite it.
Don't stop. I think that's when you lose, is that you guys have been going through for 14 years now, and ups and downs, I'm sure along the way, but
Mhm.
it really is, I think as any business does, there are times where you're like, oh my gosh, what, I don't know how we're going to do this. But like you said, if you keep the mindset that, hey, we can, I'm still trying to find the fun. I'm trying to find something that I'm thankful for, or gratitude, or what is this teaching me in the moment,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah,
know?
I have to remind myself that sometimes, and
Mhm,
also have to remind my husband because he might take certain things to heart a little bit more. You know, I
mhm.
have I have a career outside of the
Yeah.
business. So
Yep,
I'm the founder, like I'm a co-founder, and I hired people, I hired
yep,
experts, and I'll come in like on weekends and help with those special projects that push it forward.
yep,
But he manages it all, all
yeah,
day to day. And, I just come in like, give a little fairy dust, and, and then I have to go about my business with,
uh-huh,
my career. And I have to go about, I have sons. I mean, they're older now. I have a son in college and a son still in high school, but he's a junior, so he's upperclassman, and it's still busy. So I find that I'm constantly like juggling a
yep,
little bit.
mhm,
So when I see, my husband, if he gets like a little stressed out, or if I see my kids stressed, or even people at
yeah,
work stressed, I try to kind of encourage them when I can,
yeah,
and help out when I can. And I think
mhm,
maybe I'm just service oriented.
yeah,
Um, and that gives me joy,
mhm,
but I also need it too. Like I
yeah,
need other people to help me snap out of it. Snap out of
yeah,
it, Sarah. Like you're wallowing a little bit in this project or in this stressor. You're
yeah,
becoming a little neurotic in this,
mhm,
because I would say my weakness was also my strength, is I can be a little neurotic in ways, like very detailed and
yep,
very like try to look at a problem and I might get stuck in it a little bit because I might be an overthinker. And
Uh-huh.
so I will go to up my, like, like, my people that
Yeah,
help believe that for me. Like, I don't have all
absolutely.
the answers. I'm just like everyone else that gets stuck too.
Hmm.
And even though I like to pay it forward and help people when they get stuck, I, in no way am I elevated or more like wise than anyone else, because I also rely on those same people
Yep.
or others that I've selected to get me back to peace. And then I
Yes.
can be a better person. And it helps the business and it helps my projects at the end of the day.
There you go. There you go. Oh man, Sarah, there's so much here. I'm thinking we're coming to we're coming to the end of the podcast here, but I think what I heard you say, I'm going to reiterate back and is, you know, again, be coachable. And do you have others around you, whether it's your husband, your family? Is it other employees, vendors, people that you can build a
Hmm.
relationship with? It's a two-way street. That's what I heard you say. Is like,
Yeah.
hey, that they can speak into my life and I can speak into their life. And
Yeah.
have you created a community connection like that? It
I
sounds to me like you
absolutely,
have, Sarah.
absolutely have. Um, my mom has been gone for 12 years, but
Mm,
growing up, I always went to my mom. And I would say her wisdom was always about the positivity, was about, oh, I'm hearing some
oh, go ahead.
sound.
You're good.
Oh, okay. um, but after, she's been gone for a very long time, so I had to lean on myself, but I
Mm,
also lean on a community. I lean on my husband.
mhm.
I lean on my dad a lot.
Yeah.
um Poor thing. He's dad. I'll lean on my sister. She and I have a very similar mind, so we're just like, we probably stay stuck in things because we're so similar. My aunt and people at work that help me center, and people you wouldn't even expect to be the person
Mm,
that gives you the advice you need. Like, I'm always open to that.
yeah.
So I have people that I've hired for things around the house or things like that, and they will give me some of the best advice that I've needed
Mhm,
about parenting an adult, or
mhm.
things like that. And it helps because we're all on this journey.
Yes.
And people, what even if they're not in business or they're in a completely different kind of business or
Yep.
a different way of life, they still have wisdom to share. And you have to be
Absolutely.
open to that and humble enough to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I mean, I'm that is that's probably a great place to stop for the podcast of this today, Sarah, because if you're listening to this podcast, that's why we have the Business Roundtable, because we want to have people like yourself on, Sarah, that share and know you're not alone, and know that, hey, who else could I talk to? Who else is there somebody I could learn from? And Sarah, we're going to want to put your contact information in our show notes. But what's the best way for folks to find you and Curb and Sign?
Okay, so for Curb and Sign, you can go to curbandsign.com,
And we'll put it
and
in the
you
show
can.
notes so you guys can
Oh,
we'll put it on there.
okay, good.
Yeah,
You
don't
can
worry, we'll
find
put
me
all
on
that.
LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, yeah, Sarah's there, and she's connected to me. So if you guys find me or Sarah, we would love to connect with you. Absolutely,
Great. I
yeah,
welcome that.
yeah. We would really love to have um, you back. Honestly, Sarah, I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
we would have. I love to have. We've had a lot of one-on-one conversations of late. The roundtable originally started with a number of business owners, and I think we love to have you back for another conversation, because I think just this idea of team building and what you've been able to do at Curb and Sign, and how you've been able to mentor your team, and the things you've learned has just been. I love it, and I'm really bring businesses on the podcast here that I'm supportive of and excited about, and seeing where you guys are going. So yeah,
Thank you,
thank you for
David.
joining us.
Yeah, thank you for the excellent conversation. Great
Yeah,
questions. You really got me thinking and opened my mind up, and I appreciate that. And I look
yeah,
forward to future conversations.
absolutely. Thanks, Sarah, for being on the podcast. Thanks, everybody else, for joining us. Until the next time, we'll look forward to having you. Like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. Connect with Sarah and I and all of our podcast guests. Thanks for being with us on the Business Roundtable, everybody.
Thank you.